LBR LBO Infrastructure Summit 2016.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I wish to thank Lanka Business Online and Lakshman and also Nayana for inviting me to share my experiences over a long period of time in Africa and Asian, working in different countries in Africa and Asia. And today, I've titled, because we are going to talk, the subject is how do we build cohesive communities in our urban centers. Now, I titled my little presentation, how do we capitalize the people's housing process? After all, the people's housing process has been the biggest producer of housing anyway around the world, but then how do we bring it up to a different level? And also, I mean, last couple of days we have been talking about so many physical things. Now I want to bring people into these physical things in a way that cities are actually built by people and people live in cities. So, but we tend to sometimes forget them. So let me start. I deliberately avoided quoting numbers and issues around numbers because I wanted to present a case for where cohesive communities could be built around people of all income groups. Because we talk so much about inclusive cities, I'm trying to present an idea of how we build inclusive cities. So the problem I would define in a way that how do we realize the full potential of the people who are living in those so-called underserved settlements. Because right now, they have a big problem. They are under threat of eviction or removal or relocation, so they won't invest their money on their houses. And then there is no way to capitalize that. How do we capitalize the land assets that the people own to improve their living conditions and their social mobility and improve their economic status? Then looking at it from the other side, then how do we optimize that use of that land for capital formation and economic growth? And of course, to increase the housing stock for all income groups, as we talked about inclusive cities. And how do we do it in a sustainable manner? And at a time when we have to create opportunities for the private sector to invest in the housing sector, what kind of climate incentives can we create for the private sector to be more involved in the housing sector? So, but to get to that, I'm putting forward three very, very fundamental basic policies. People who are in need should be placed at the center of decision-making and action. This is key. Otherwise, all these issues and conflicts and dissatisfaction and financial problems, all what we have been talking about will arise, and they are bound to arise anyway in programs that are top-down, governments deciding what to do for the people. So the people have to be at the center of decision-making and action. The state has to play its obligatory role of safeguarding rights, this is very important, and supporting people and the market to work. So the state has a very important role to play. They cannot say, okay, let the market do it, but the state has to play an important role to support this process. And the market, in turn, has to respond to this opportunity. So I called it a people-driven, a state-supported, a market finance approach that would work for our country. And we, as Sri Lankans, we have been very innovative in our social development programs over the last 50 years or so. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to come up with a very innovative program, a housing program, which addresses all the social issues and can be done through the funding, the economy that we have. So that's the idea that I want to present to you. I mean, because the resources and commitments are there. Firstly, social capital. From the people's energy to improve their lives. Social capital, very often we forget in all our economic and financial analysis, we never consider social capital. Social capital is fundamental in our societies, from our villages to our urban communities. Okay, thanks. And land, we got urban land, and we have financial institutions which are fairly flush with money. And political commitment. We have the political commitment to bestow rights, and then we have the institutional commitments like Megapolis, which has the objective of creating happiness. Okay, the support framework, I put it in a diagram like that. We have people, land, and money, and social mobilization that is required to build the social capital. This framework explains how the state has to support these three to work. And actions immediately required are that we have to building social capital through mobilization of people and sourcing financial capital through right kind of incentives and optimizing the use of land for urban regeneration through very creative planning of how we can do that, both financial and physically, how we integrate physical and financial planning to achieve that optimization of the use of land. And lastly, I want to present to you something that we have been talking about because we talked about it a lot on technology. I think to have this consensus, as Nayana mentioned, on our next debate on this way forward to go on this issue where we have social and economic considerations to come up with this idea of the program, I think it is essential for us to create a kind of e-platform because we have the technology to do that, which we did not have in those days, to generate the ideas from everybody, so that the public, the communities who are out there living in these areas, developers, banks, civil society, professional bodies, and the state has to facilitate this whole debate to generate ideas for participation, consultation, to ensure safeguards, so that you have a lively debate on the issues so that we reach that consensus. And then how do we respond to the different needs and different demands of because we have so many different interest groups in the whole picture. So this is a way of how we have a very transparent approach to policy making and coming up with programs which can be monitored over time, and we can have a very acceptable solution to the problem for the people and the financial sector. And that's how I think we can create the cohesive communities where all people of all income groups, irrespective of their incomes, that we can live together. We have been living together happily, and how do we take that living together to a better advanced step with better quality of life for everybody in the city. And I will stop there, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention.
LBR LBO Infrastructure Summit 2016.